your host, Sean Lynn, in the pub for a Dram with friends, where we talk about faith, family, food, and fun. Pull up a chair and I'll pour you a drink. Episode 98. We are very happy to welcome Cale Scneider into the pub. Cale's going to talk about friends in faith on a journey. He's not going to have a dram, but I will. Sit back and enjoy. Got my whiskey. Awesome. And you got your soda. Good.
Yeah.
Mine's a wee beastie, Ardbeg. Very heavy, peaty, put hair on your chest kind of whiskey. So, and you're having the soda because we're being responsible. You're in Alberta. You can drink when you're 18, but we have what's called the graduated driver's license.
That's right.
So that you're not allowed to drive with any alcohol in your system, which is a good thing probably.
I'm also still 17.
Oh.
Yeah, a couple more months. Yeah.
Couple more months.
Yeah.
What? I should have had a closer look at that application, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're still allowed to come into the pub with an adult. And I'm here. So, Cale Schneider, who is Cale Schneider?
Well, I am the second oldest of 8 children. My parents, my dad is originally from Calgary, and my mom, she grew up in Peace River. They lived in their first home in Sudbury, Ontario, and that's where my older brother and I were born. And from there we moved to Bruno, Saskatchewan for a year, and then from there we came to Calgary, and now we're living in Cochrane. We've been in Cochrane for the last 8 years now. Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah. So you've been around.
We have, yeah.
We rode the motorcycles out to Sudbury last summer. Yeah. We got our picture with the big nickel.
Oh yes, yeah.
And that was actually my first time stopping in Sudbury last year. So. Yeah. And then Bruno, Saskatchewan. What brought your dad to Bruno?
I think community. I think he was offered a job there, and so he moved. And there was also, at that time you could buy land for $1. It was very cheap, and so they moved out there. And my dad, I don't actually know what he was doing, but we were only there for a year before he got the job offer to work at CWA in the city.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was working at Clearwater Academy, and we also, the Mopatis are out there, and they've been out there for a long time, and the Connollys, and we met our good friends, the Rives, out there, and yeah. So I think my parents really loved the small town setting, and just that if you ran out of eggs, you could go next door and, ask your neighbor for a couple eggs, and that was just a normal occurrence. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting little town where they have St. Therese now as a school. It's very vibrant, producing missionary disciples, which our diocese and God Squad Canada, Heroic Men, we all seem to be hearing that call to create missionary disciples. And the Montpetites are very good. We've known them forever. Gerald Montpetit played as a musician in our very first conference.
Oh, really?
And several following. And so we've known them. We've stopped by there on our motorcycle rides a couple times. And so, yeah, it's a great little town.
It is, yeah.
So what made you to apply to be a summer student at God Squad Canada?
Well, I heard about it from, earlier this year I went to the annual men's conference, and I think I was on the emailing list for God Squad, and I had got the monthly man update and the newsletter, and I scrolled down and I saw there was the application there, and I think that was actually the second place that I heard of it. I think I originally heard that you guys were doing this from my dad, because you had spoken to him at the CCO gala earlier in the year. And so, it was kind of something that was in the back of my mind. And then when it came up in the email, I kind of put more serious thought into it and thought, there's no harm in applying. And so, yeah, I applied, and here we are. Yeah.
So what attracts you to ministry to men? You said you went to the men's conference, and why were you there?
Well, I think, and I've been for the last couple of years now, but I think the main reason is just men need to be served in their lives, especially nowadays. Men need to also serve. They need to learn how to serve, but sometimes they need to be served in order to then go out and serve. Men, have always been for, like, in tradition, the people that work and the people that go out, and men have had this idea of being hard workers, and I think that idea is it's not absent, but it's starting to be lost in today's culture. And so I think, one, God Squad is doing a really good thing in the sense of serving men, not just serving them, but then building them up to be able to go out and serve better, to be able to go out and kind of reclaim their title as men, right? As what kind of the way that God created men is to be leaders, to be givers, right? To be the gift to be received by others. Like as we see in Genesis, right? That Adam was the gift to Eve, right? And even I'm kind of going everywhere here, but we think like JP2's theology of the body, right? How he talks about how man is the gift, even just in the way that our bodies are created. Man is a gift, and woman is created to receive that gift, right? And both become one flesh. But yeah, just that idea of man as being gift. But yeah, men can also be overworked in our society, and so just even in the sense of a weekend conference it's good to kind of take a step back and be served. Yeah. Yeah.
Regroup. And,
yeah, exactly.
And so so heroic men strengthen the man, strengthen the family, strengthen the family, strengthen the church. And that's where it's so important that we capture young men like yourself into that mission, because it's one thing for us to say, oh, I wish I'd done this with gray hair like myself. Yes, I do have gray hair. You can see it right there. And versus getting young men like yourself saying, this is what I'm going to do, giving them that vision and challenge. Because men do react better to being challenged than...
it's true. Yeah.
Sorry, tickle in the throat.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. And that
very nice.
there you go. It'll cure whatever ails you. So, how have you made the faith your own? Like, I understand, like, I know your parents and faithful, beautiful Catholic family, but how have you made the faith your own?
I feel like everybody has quite a unique faith story of their journey in faith. And if you look at what prayer really is, it's like our relationship with God. And so I think in the way that I've made the faith my own is by, I think a way that God has kind of called me into my faith more is by serving others. And like I said, generally, yes, men's role is to be able to serve. Men should know how to serve, but also that can mean different things, right? That could mean small scale, as in just a man working a job and he's serving those around him in his field of work. It could also mean larger scale, like what you're doing here, right? You're serving many men and women, that fall like a domino effect. You affect the man and you affect everything behind him, right? And so that's a larger scaled thing. And I think in my life, it's more individual conversation. I think just kind of the one-on-one conversation. God's kind of given me, and it's not something that I've had to work for either, but people have always kind of had a sense of trust, even without merit. I mean, if they give me a chance, I'll give them merit to trust me, but usually even just at kind of just barely knowing somebody, there's times where I'll be just sitting, small talk, and people just open up. And I've taken note of that over the years, of just how people have an inclination to open up with me. And on top of that, the Lord's kind of given me also this kind of wisdom to be able to give back, right? To be able to sit and listen, because everybody needs to be listened to, but then also to be able to give back after that. And I think that in a big way has been a way in which the Lord's been able to work through me. It's like as who said that? St. Francis, an instrument of his will. And so I think that's been one of the biggest ways that the Lord's been able to work through me, and that I've really tried to allow him to work through me. And and that's more of a smaller scale thing, but
we're all striving.
Exactly.
So that's an awesome answer, and I'm excited to see where he does lead you, especially when there appears to be this openness to listen. And I love what you said about listening, because that's a lost art in today's culture, is to actually listen. And we call it active listening in peer support, or so just to be able to hear what other people are saying versus imposing your will on others. You're hearing what they're saying, and that's our diocese is trying to go through that right now with our diocesan renewal, our parish renewal, is just to hear where the people are and then respond and lead them, hopefully with the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. As the gospel reading today said, I'll give you the words. And that's where a lot of people, that takes courage to do what you're doing, to actually engage. So keep that up.
Yeah, I will.
Where do you see yourself going? Like, what's your long-term plan here?
For the last about a year and a half, I've been, I'll kind of take a back step and say first that, I graduated just in May from high school, grade 12. And, when you're kind of in that grade 11, 12 range of high school, that's when, you start getting asked, what do you want to do after high school? And even before that, people will ask, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, what are your aspirations? Your hobbies even. And, my answer to that question was always one that most people are taken aback by. Most people they don't expect it. And because what most people are looking for is a career path. What they mean by that is, what's your career path? Like, what job do you want to work? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? But I feel like that question, okay, maybe that could be, what do you want to do when you grow up? But lots of people say, what do you want to be? And I think that word of be, like, what do you want to be, is more of a personal word than what you're doing with your hands, right? It's not your work that you are. You are not your work, right? And so,
but so many men identify that as their identity. Yeah,
and so the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, even thinking about, my answer was always, some people have the dream to be an astronaut, to be a firefighter, to, like yourself, be a cop, right? And I never had an occupational dream. I've had, obviously, now I've been thinking about it more, and I'm looking into being a pilot, and I've just spoken with a guy in Stony Plain, actually, about about training. He's a freelance instructor, so hopefully that works out. But career aside, my answer was always, I want to be a husband and father. That's all I really have the desire for, right? I want to serve God in that capacity, to be able to, I think it's a beautiful thing. One, the family is the foundation of our society, right? It is. And the fact that that's, I won't get too in depth, but the fact that the family is at risk right now, and it shows in our society. The fact that the family is so broken, just in general, like all families are broken, but the idea of the family is broken, and it's being skewed with, and we see the pain and the hurt that that's causing in the world. So besides the fact that it's beautiful, I've really had a draw towards being able to, in reality, you're raising saints, or you have the potential to be able to raise saints, right? I feel like that's the calling of a husband, is to raise up children to be saints, but then also him giving fully to his wife, and his wife giving fully to him, and then they make each other saints in that, right? And obviously those are goals, and those are as humans,
awesome goals. Wow, that's very deep, and you don't hear that from a 17-year-old normally. Hey, I want to play in the NBA or the NHL, and that is incredible, because just that depth of understanding and wisdom that, as Kimberly Hahn had once quoted saying, "I'm changing the world one diaper at a time." and seeing the beauty of that, it's incredible. And that's something that us men need to remember, that it's in that small, quiet place that we are changing the world. Pope John Paul II had parents. Mother Teresa, Saint Therese of Lisieux, her parents were canonized saints, right? So we all have a role in that, and just that's the whole reason God Squad exists, is because we saw that breakdown of the family, especially the absence of fathers and fatherhood, and trying to just speak into that and be present and exemplify that. And it's been my life's work and mission, and I keep asking God, when's it going to go away? And He hasn't taken it away from me yet. So apparently I'm going to be doing this for a little longer. I'm hopeful that somebody like yourself can take over in the future. And that's where this is really encouraging for me, is you are to hear that kind of wisdom from a young man gives great hope. And this interview is going to give great hope to a lot of the guys visiting us in the pub today. So what do you do for fun?
That's a good question. Well, right now I'm working for God's Squad, clicking away in my closet most of the day, but
I'm glad to hear that that's fun.
But for fun, I love music. I've always loved music. Both sides of my family have always been very musical. Less so my dad's, like my aunts and my dad's siblings and parents, but my dad is extremely musical. He actually, his older brother also is musical. They both went to school for music, and his older brother, he's got a doctorate in music, and he's a conductor now, and he works at mainly at the what's it called, he was working at Notre Dame High School. I don't know where he is now. I forget. But
so he's in the city here?
He is in the city, yeah.
I have to get to meet this guy.
He's a very cool guy. Yeah? Yeah. But yes, and my dad, he was a music major, and his instrument was the trumpet. My uncle's was the saxophone, the tenor saxophone.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so my dad, very musical, and on my mom's side, they were fruitful and multiplied, and there are many, many cousins that love music. And the grandpa who's at the head of that whole family, his last name is Dahl, and so he created this thing called the Fiddle Fest, which is our family reunion. And since we have so many cousins, it's a big thing to coordinate. And so they only do it about every 4 years. Before COVID was the last one. We haven't had one in a long time, but yeah, the family would just get together and just play music, and then we'd bring in trailers and, camp out on one of the uncle's farms. And anyways, so that's always been a blast. But because of those two sides of the family, me and my siblings have all inherited that the love of music. And so since I was about 9, I learned the guitar from my mom's mom, my grandma on my mom's side, and I wrote music since I was 11, just kind of for fun. I've been writing music. And so that's really fun. I do love that. In the last year, my music is, well, just in general, music writing has been slowing down. And so I do hope I can get back to that. But yeah, music's a big thing in my life. And as well as I attended St. John Choir Schola, and they have an excellent choral program which is led by Malcolm Edwards, who actually, funny enough, was one of my dad's music professors in the U of C. So that was cool to see as well. But yeah, other than music, I love to snowboard in the wintertime. I got into that when I was around 10. My dad had a student in Clearwater, past student. He was an alumni that was working at COP, the ski hill, and he offered to do private lessons with me. So that was very, very much a blessing, and yeah, no, I've loved it ever since. But yeah, I mean, I love music. I love snowboarding.
Is there a certain genre of music
that's a good question. I would say that I play. Like the question.
Or you prefer?
I do. I do like a lot of different kinds of music listening to wise. I'm a fan of country. I know that's can be an unpopular opinion, but we're in Calgary, so that should be safe to say.
We're recording this during the Calgary State
Yes,
game, so there's a lot of country music being played this week.
There is. Yeah, so country I'm a big fan of, but I think if I had to define the genre that I write, I guess you could kind of call it like folk, kind of like between folk and just I know that it's kind of a vague genre, but the singer-songwriter genre, like yeah, just mainly focused on the, I love finger picking on guitar, just kind of finger picking patterns, and then
so you should get some
poetic lyrics.
Blues in there as well.
Oh, blues is fun. I love playing jazz and blues just over top of tracks. That's fun to play. But yeah, guitar is big passion.
So that's your go-to instrument is guitar, and that's awesome to hear. And so one of the areas we delve into, normally I call it a dad's dish, but have you started cooking, or do you do much cooking? Or?
Every once in a while, I do like cooking. It's something that I'm hoping to get into more. I mean, being a dad, I'm sure I won't have a choice, but to get into it more.
You're good at flipping pancakes now after that.
I am, yes. I really do like making pasta. There's a lot of different pasta dishes that can be made, and not that it's not an art, but it is fairly simple. But I like that there's a lot of variation in pasta to be able to. I mean, it's all the same format of, it's a noodle and a sauce, and you might have some meat in there, and but yeah, there's I do like making pastas.
And there is an art to making pasta, and it's because you go out. There's some really good pasta restaurants, and
that's true.
Not
yes.
as good. So there is somewhat of an art to it. So who are your, Jeff Cavins talks about riding with your posse, your group of go-to saints. Do you have some go-to saints that are?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, no, friends have been a huge part of my life, and somebody called me earlier today asking about there's the upcoming Ignite camps this summer, and they're writing a talk on how to leave Ignite, what to do when you leave Ignite, and how to carry your faith on leaving this, right? Because this is catered towards, people that are fully involved, but also those who are kind of more still in the kind of exploratory phase of their faith. And so just helping people to move forward. And he asked me, any advice. He's just kind of calling people, taking notes. And I think one of the big things I said was having friends, having people that you can talk to. Now, obviously, you have the physical presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, which is a physical way to kind of fully, what's that word? Like, kind of manifest the Lord in you, like your faith, right? And to really like feel Him. But then he also kind of gives us the gift of, if we have good, faithful people in our lives that are around us, we can really see Him in them as well. And I've learned a lot about Christ through others, through my prayer, but also just like mainly through others in my life. I've always been a very social person. I've always loved being out and conversing, and I'm definitely more of an extrovert, and so being able to speak with others has been something I've always loved. But yeah, I think my friends have been a huge part of my faith journey. Just to be able to, like I said, I like listening to people because everyone needs to be listened to. But just like anybody, right, I'm sure. And like I said, men need to be served every once in a while. And so it's nice. And a big thing for me is to have those people that, I can listen to everybody, but there's only a select few that I've found that have been able to listen to me. And that's something that I feel extremely loved by in my life is those men, men, and then just those guys that have been with me through school, and those friends that I've had since Bruno. They're actually, a couple of them are staying at our house right now just for the night. I picked them up yesterday at camp. At the camp, yeah. So
and so what's interesting, you bring up a interesting topic that we're learning more about. Dan Donaldson, our vice president for Heroic Men, talked about that, where you have this mountaintop experience by going to something like Ignite or God Squad Canada, Men's Conference. It's the need for a follow-up. Because Dan was talking about his son, not sure he wanted to go back to camp because of the letdown
afterwards.
So you're hitting the nail on the head, and I fully encourage Ignite to do some kind of follow-up with the kids, some challenge, some connection to let them know that they are still connected, that they're part of something bigger than themselves, and build that momentum so that they continue to live out what they learned at the Ignite. And that's where, like, having go-to saints that are alive and well in heaven, that can walk along, like St. Joseph's one of mine, St. Michael, just St. Francis of Assisi. These are people that you can count on and converse with, but setting up a way to follow up and continue those connections. So we're looking at different techniques. We're doing a program where we're doing an 8-week weekly check-in, follow-up, and working on material.
Post-conference, that is?
Post-conference from our summit that we just had a couple of weeks ago in California. So just trying to continue that engagement so that there isn't that big letdown after coming. Because I know for my kids going to Ignite and other kids that it's huge. I've got my grandsons going now. So let's see. What is there anything I've missed?
I did want to speak to what you said there, because I actually the team at Face to Face has actually done a really incredible job of staying with their participants, like with the kids who come to those camps. And they've been able to, I don't know how many years they've had this on for, but there's the platform Discord, and they've been able to create a big kind of community and web on there for people to stay connected. And it's not just like, yes, they have announcements as to upcoming events and things like that, but they really do an incredible job of not only staying connected on there, and they built a great community that there's also, the kids on there, or they're just talking to each other outside of like camp setting or anything to do with.
It's not just for gaming?
No, they actually have done a really great job of that online setting, but also and I know that there are some other camps that do this, but they take down all the participants' birthdays when they're at the camp, and they take down their address, right? That's just kind of the usual stuff. But so they'll send like a newsletter out every year, or like after the summer, to show what all happened and the numbers of how many people attended, to kind of encourage people and show the growth of the ministry. But they'll send you a birthday card on your birthday, and they'll show you all these things that just kind of surprise you. And you're like, wow, they really are like,
wow,
they really are like staying connected with people. And I mean, they have an incredibly involved and dedicated team to be able to do stuff like that, to be able to, mail out these letters.
And as the young men are growing out, you're sending them where?
What's that?
You're sending them to
God
Spot and Heroic Men, right?
Exactly,
so
yes.
We continue that growth and feeding, and because we need support and connection all the way along, whether you're a shy teenager, because up to, well, in my talk down in California, I gave the stats on euthanasia, where California and Canada legalized it the same year, 2016. And yet in 2022, and our populations are similar. California had euthanized 890 people, where Canada had euthanized over 13,000.
Wow.
And so a lot of that, I think, has to be due to loneliness and lack of connection.
That's so true.
So we need to continue to reach out to win souls for Christ, and that's where our prayer is, that we continue to build each other up so that we can go out and do that, win souls for Christ. So keep up the good work. I don't know if you know, but the Gaelic term for whiskey is Ishkabaha, which means water of life. And and my prayer is that you, as a young man, continue to grow in the wisdom and lead many souls to the true water of life. So thanks for saying yes to God, and thank you for saying yes to God Squad this summer.
Of course, yeah.
Have a great day, and we'll have you back in the pub when you can.
Sounds good.
Have a drink.
It's been good to be here, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of A Dram with Friends. Like and subscribe. Go to all podcast platforms to look for it on podcast, or go to godsquad.ca to support our mission.